Hello, everybody. I'm so excited for a conversation that I really think we need to shine a louder spotlight on. And that is why and perhaps what is the danger in not teaching girls about cycle tracking and what is going on with their bodies throughout the month. So I'm joined with an amazing guest today. If you have not met Katie Vidmar, you are absolutely going to love her. I'm so excited to dive into this topic. If you're new here, I'm Rita Johnson, the owner of Health and Hormones. And here you'll find all things from fatigue solutions to period help and so much more. Let's dive in. So before I introduce you to my dear friend, Katie Vidmar, I just want to tell you a little bit about Katie and what she is known for, maybe, secondarily to her family. Katie is a body literacy and fertility awareness educator and a passionate advocate for bringing holistic women's health to adolescents, young adults, and underserved populations. As the founder of the Body Literacy Project, she works with leaders in policy and education to ensure that every boy and girl in America is empowered to read and understand their bodies, armed with the knowledge they need to protect their health span, their lifespan, and their dreams for a family in the future. Through her training program, Elevate, Katie has equipped over 1,000 nurses to bring a cycle-informed approach to women's health care. She writes and speaks across the country and lives in Bismarck, North Dakota with her husband and their 7 children. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me, Rita.
So happy to have you here. It's so fun. Quick side note, one of the amazing gifts when the Lord calls you to business while growing a family and all of the things is the incredible people that the Lord puts into your path. And Katie is definitely on the top of that list for me and a dear friend that I've been able to meet despite the many miles in between us. And even being able to host her once, which was such a gift. And my little one still talks about her youngest, baby Ben, and when she'll see him again. So, Katie and I today, we just kind of I want to start by unpacking, and maybe we can start off with that story you were sharing with me about why is it so important that we're equipping and empowering our girls with the knowledge about what is going on in their bodies? I'm just going to throw the heavy question out there.
Yes, let's get right to it. So I was sharing this story with Rita, and I like this story because I think it really resonates with a lot of moms, especially Christian moms, Catholic moms, that have just a deep desire to form their sons and their daughters in the best way, right? To help them really grow in character and virtue. And then some of the fears that can go along with that maybe lead us places that we don't really want to go. So here's my story. I have a dear friend from high school. I was a couple of years older than this friend, and she married quite young. She actually got married before I did. So she had a bit of a head start when it came to growing her family. But she went at age 20, she delivered her first baby, and now at almost 40, she's the mother of 20 years later, she's a mother of 10 children. And she was reminiscing about going through pre-marriage and learning a natural family planning method as part of her pre-marriage formation, and learning for the first time what cervical fluid was, and that it was a sign of health, right? And yes, connected to her fertile window, but first and foremost, a sign that her body was doing exactly what healthy bodies are supposed to do. And she shared that in high school, she had been one who had copious amounts of fertile type cervical fluid right around the time that she would have been ovulating. But she didn't know what it was, and she felt a lot of shame about it. And we just can be afraid sometimes of what we don't understand. And she ended up circling back with her mom many years later when she's like 5, 6 kids into her family's growth, and said, "Hey, Mom, how come you never told me about my cervical fluid?" And her mom said, "Honey, I didn't think that I could, because in my mind, teaching you about your fertile window, teaching you what cervical fluid signifies, would have been the same thing as handing you contraceptive pills." And I couldn't do that.
Mm.
And from that point, the conversation kind of ended. According to my friend, her conversation with her mom, she just didn't know where to take it from there. She didn't want to make her mom feel guilty or make her mom second guess her choices or any of those things. She completely trusts her mom's care and love and good faith. And at the same time, she's choosing to raise her own daughters differently. And I think the story is important because I think it's something that a lot of us wrestle with. And we hear different things from different voices, even within our denomination, even within the Catholic Church, of what is the best way to go about forming our young girls, especially for maturity.
Yeah,
So,
it's so fascinating too. Like I had no concept that this was something that people grappled with, to be totally honest with you, until I had a conversation in the last couple of years with somebody who he had been in seminary for years, and then he was now working as director of religious education, or not, marriage and family life director for the diocese, and him talking about, and he asked me, he was like, what do you say to the priests that say that we shouldn't be teaching our daughters these things because of the likelihood of them using it and abusing it and, trying to be sexually active outside of marriage and avoid pregnancy? And I was shocked. I was shocked. And honestly, I didn't have the words for it at the time of why was I so appalled until my dear the words. And you were like, we're keeping them illiterate. We're preventing them from understanding their body. And that's exactly the crux of it. Like, how can we think that it's the same as contraception when it's understanding the way God made them? So I don't know, like in that situation, if pretend you were in that situation when the mom said that, or maybe somebody said that directly to you. I'm sure somebody has at some point. What would you say to them? Like, I love hearing how you defend.
yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, I would just want to begin by affirming their positive desire to be a good mom, right?
Yeah.
And to create an environment around your child that's going to support them to become exactly who they are created to be, right? We all want to protect our children's future to the extent that we have the ability to do so. So I would start there because that's common ground. And we always get further with these conversations when we begin with what we hold in common. And then I would just state that I had a different perspective. And as you said, I do think it has to do with literacy. There's a quote from Lisa Hendrickson Jack, who wrote the book, The Fifth Vital Sign. And she says, to hold a population illiterate is an act of systematic disempowerment. Sure. That if a population cannot read, they are all the more easy to use, abuse, and control. And so what does it mean that we live in a culture that tends to keep women illiterate of their bodies? And is this not also an act of systematic disempowerment?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's strong language, but I agree with her. And we all have experiences where we would have chosen differently, especially in healthcare, if we had had certain foundational concepts in our back pocket so that we could better decide for ourselves which path was going to be right for us.
Yeah.
I think that it's easy to throw stones at a contraceptive culture that, in a way, takes advantage of women not understanding how their bodies work in a state of health. In a typical contraceptive counseling appointment, girls and women are not typically encouraged to frame the decision around the fact that we're taking a healthy body system and we're disrupting it on purpose, like in very simple terms, right? Yeah. And so there's a way that the contraceptive mindset has an advantage, and like it has an interest, I guess you would say, in women being illiterate of their bodies. We're more likely to accept it if we don't really know how it happens.
Right. Right.
But on the other side, and maybe we would describe this like very gently as potentially an like overly scrupulous perspective, that we can end up embracing that same attitude that we accuse the contraceptive culture of having, right? Like, I know the truth. You can't handle the truth about your body. And so I'm going to decide for you.
Yeah. What are some benefits that you have seen about educating girls on their bodies?
Yes, so many. I just think about my friend, right? She thought, I must be thinking about boys all the time. I must be really boy crazy. And she connected it, even in teenage terms, with what we would call her libido, right? And then she felt really ashamed of that.
Yeah.
And so I think the heart of it is we want our daughters to know that their bodies are good and that their sexuality is a good as well. And that when they can see that they were designed in a way that is ordered and intelligent and makes sense, it totally transforms the way that they carry themselves in the world. And I think it transforms even the way that they understand their creator, right? Yeah. If they think that their bodies only act in arbitrary ways that they can't predict and are a cause of pain, and then you come in and say you were created by a God who loves you, it sounds like the punchline of a sick joke.
Yeah.
So I think that understanding the body grounds us in our understanding of what it means to be a creature, to be a daughter of God, and then a reflection of who God is as well. So those are like the big picture, like worldview shaping reasons. And then there's just practical reasons, Rita, right? We know that if you can pinpoint the time of ovulation, your luteal phase, that second half of the cycle, happens very consistently. That if you want to never be surprised by a period at school, the basic period tracking app isn't going to cut it. It'll carry you fairly far, but really what we want to do is be able to identify when we're ovulating as closely as possible. So there's just those like very practical elements as well that empower girls to really feel in the driver's seat. And then they feel confident to advocate for themselves, both in healthcare and in friendships and in their future relationships as well.
Yeah, I love that. So true. Okay, so for those that are passionate about the pro-life issue, which to some of you, this might feel like a question that's a little out of left field, but bear with me if you're feeling that way. So for those that are very passionate about pro-life issues and wanting to help convert hearts in our country to, a greater understanding of life in all its forms and protecting life, what would you say to that mom that's also parenting a teenage daughter that's maybe just started cycling or even having issues starting cycling? And she's like, but how is this possibly connected to teaching her about her cycle? How can that help foster this like pro-life community and pro-life environment that we want to raise our child to be passionate about as well, right? So I hope that's a succinct enough question.
No, I think I can follow you. Yeah, I think if we see our own bodies as sacred, then it is not a stretch to understand that the baby, even from the moment of conception, is sacred as well. So I think on a very basic level, right, that makes sense. In terms of like shaping behavior, we know that adolescents who are taught to track their cycles, or even boys can track their biomarkers as well, Their body is also doing things during adolescence, and it's also doing things in a way that's ordered and makes sense. And it's important for boys to be able to do those things as well, I think. We know that body literate teens are more likely to avoid sexual risk behaviors than their peers who are not given this knowledge. And that's from a study that we can share in the show notes, Rita, conducted by an organization called Teen Star. They combine sexual risk avoidance education alongside body literacy education for boys and girls. So
Beautiful.
it's like our fear, right, is that, oh my goodness, if she knows she's not fertile all the time, will she sin against the sixth commandment in the luteal phase? and the Teen Star data is a little old. It's from the early 2000s. So more research would be helpful, but just intuitively, this makes sense to me that actually having this knowledge has a protective effect on how young people choose to use the gift of their sexuality.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it makes so much sense why the devil would choose this fight to fight as well, right? In that context, to see like, no, don't do that. Don't do the thing that's most helpful to help them protect their bodies, to help them protect their future vocations, whether that's marriage or religious life or whatever, to help them protect the pro-life causes. Like all of that is encompassed in this beauty and appreciation and understanding of how we are made good. And then all of the conversion stories we hear that happen from somebody that just randomly picked up this book. And I love, there's like these, I call them like gateway drug books, where like somebody read it and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, what's this all about?
Yes.
And slowly they start learning about theology of the body, and slowly they start learning about all of these beautiful truths that's just affirming what they're learning as they're understanding what their body's saying. So powerful. So in your experience, when do you think is an ideal time, or perhaps the best time, to have this conversation with our girls?
Great question. Like so many people who speak on this topic, I would echo that it's not just one conversation, right? We want to normalize this topic and weave it into lots of everyday encounters with our kids. Girls in our culture mature more quickly than boys. Average age of onset of menstruation is 11 to 12 years, which means we do have some 9-year-olds. That's like third grade starting to cycle already. So I don't think that third grade is too early to begin talking specifically in very age-appropriate terms about what it means for a girl's body to start to develop into the body of a woman. And I think there is a shocking statistic that we can look up. I don't remember, but there's still a large number of girls in America having their first period not knowing what it is. Still. And there is absolutely no reason for this. And I do believe that moms are the best people to have this conversation with their daughters. And the more that we can support mothers so that they feel confident to enter, and just even to give them language, to give them perspective, to hold space for moms to unpack their own experiences of early maturity that maybe weren't all that positive, and then make a decision about what they want for their daughters and what was good about their early experiences, and then maybe what was lacking, and do what they can to serve their daughters well during this transition.
Yeah, I love that. And something that I found, I have of my 4 girls, 2 have started cycling now. But I feel like something that I didn't realize would be a benefit too was having this conversation before they start cycling is really empowering, especially in that time that happens right before they do start. And hormonally, they're just like all over the place. So that means emotionally, they're all over the place. I remember hearing one of my kiddos who is particularly high highs and low lows. She just like, goes up and back and forth a lot. But I remember her saying one day, she was like, I just can't help it. I'm so mean to everyone. And it just comes right out of my mouth and there's nothing I can do to stop it. And I was like, oh, baby, that's hormones.
Right.
Conversation. That's okay. Like you're going to have times like that. But I feel like it's helped them to navigate through that season and then see, instead of seeing like their first period or they're like entering into cycles, which I kind of did this. I was like, oh, I don't want to be a girl. I have to do that every month for the next 35 years, right? Like, I don't want that. I didn't sign up for this. Like, what does boys got to do? Like,
right.
Right. Like, but I think instead it empowers them to this place of like, oh, things are actually going to get better. When you start cycling, you're going to have more of a cadence. You understand there's so much you can do to support that. And if something's not working, if you don't feel good, if you have pain, if you have these big problems, there's something we can do. Like it's not just something we're a victim to our own bodies. And I think it gives them all of this empowerment when we teach them just, this is what's going on with your cycle. And it just goes so deep.
That's right. I love your point about how once they start cycling, they can begin to anticipate those times when they maybe will need more support. And then coaching our daughters to communicate with us, with their siblings, with their friends around that. I think that can be really, really incredible. I have a colleague who's a registered nurse and a fertility awareness educator. Her daughter was tracking her cycle and she noticed that her anxiety went through the roof, but only in the 4th week of her cycle. And so they dug in, did a full FEM protocol workup, and she ended up being diagnosed with premature ovarian insufficiency.
Whoa.
As a 15-year-old.
Whoa.
And using restorative reproductive medical protocols, they were able to deal with her anxiety, which was like clinical level anxiety, but only in that 4th week. They were able to address that without any psych meds. They just helped this girl balance her hormones and got her ovulating.
Wow. Praise the Lord.
Right. And I think I love this story for many reasons because it illustrates the power of cycle tracking in adolescence. I also think it drives home that if she had just presented at a typical OB, it is more likely than not that she would have been offered hormonal contraception, which could have had some positive effects on her mood in terms of just helping her feel more level and even, right? You have to acknowledge that there's a reason why people use this for symptom management.
Yeah.
And a couple of points related to that. First, my friend said the injustice of only presenting symptom management had never really registered with her until it was her daughter and her daughter's future fertility. And that this problem would have just been masked until she met Mr. Right and wanted to start a family. And then they would have to have dealt with a much bigger problem at that point.
Right.
And then the other piece is that we know that just having a prescription for hormonal contraception creates what economists call a moral hazard. That basically, when we perceive that the risk of a choice that we're making is going to be put on a different individual, it affects the choices we make.
Sure.
So we see an increase in sexual risk-taking behaviors, earlier onset of earlier sexual debut, more risk for unplanned pregnancy and abortion, all associated with a prescription for hormonal contraception. And it does not matter whether it was prescribed for therapeutic purposes or for potential sexual activity. The risk factor increases by the same amount. That's from a study by Dr. Richard Faring, which we can also share. So again, there's a protective effect that comes with our daughters understanding their bodies, being able to flag abnormalities earlier, even in adolescence, and then seeking that root cause care that often involves behavioral health shifts that can be, hard.
Yeah.
But there's a really big need to shed light on what comes with symptom management. And it's more than most of us realize.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Like, I feel like that's so in line with many of us as moms, is that like it's the mama bear that gets triggered, that then we're like, wait a minute, what are we all doing? Like, we start to reevaluate that. Like, so, for those of you that have really enjoyed this conversation, you're like, okay, but where do I even start? Like, I wasn't given this beautiful conversation. How do I foster this beautiful conversation? Or maybe you've already had it with your daughters, but it wasn't received the way you wanted it to, or you just wish that you had others around you that could also speak this truth into your daughter. I want to tell you about an upcoming workshop Katie and I are doing. It starts on May 11th. If you watch this recording afterwards, you can still sign up for it. Everything will be recorded with lifetime access. But Katie is going to teach our girls all about tracking their cycles, and even how to do that off of smartphones if they, like my 12-year-old, does not have a smartphone. And I like it that way for several years to come. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about resources for that. We have somebody that's going to be talking about using like kitchen skills and cooking real food and having fun. How do we support our healthy functioning of our body through this fun lens? Somebody's going to be speaking about a healthy relationship with food. So if your daughter is maybe struggling with an eating disorder, or you struggled with an eating disorder, or maybe she's actively struggling, this is going to be a wonderful conversation you're going to want to be in on. And then I'm going to talk about the cycle syncing. How do we support that hormonal balance and things we do in our day-to-day life? And then what do we do when there's problems, when there's red flags? And what are some of those red flags? Because sometimes what we've always perceived as normal for us is not healthy, and things that we want to just deal with. And so really talking through that common, not normal, and all of that. So the link is also in the description for this as well, and I hope you'll check it out. Katie, thank you so much for your time today. I know this is going to bless so many women, and I'm just so thankful for you, for your ministry, and for your friendship.
You as well, Rita. Thank you so much.